Andrey Rublev was defaulted. We're going to speak about it on this episode. And of course, Simona Halep returns to tennis.
We also are going to be speaking about Indian Wells. It's kicked off, but it's been a sticky start for the Brits.
Yeah, Jack Draper's struggling. Taylor Fritz has a new sponsor. Make sure, sit back, get yourself a hot drink or a cold drink, and welcome to the countdown.
Novak Djokovic has won the Australian Open. 35 matches unbeaten. He's done it! Djokovic has won Wimbledon. He wins his 14th Roland Garros title.
Hey, we're back. Another episode of The Countdown. A little bit later than we would have hoped this week, but it's because Indian Wells. It starts at a bit of a strange time, so we had draw previews, draw reactions for the first part of the Sunshine Double, but we're going to get into some of the first round results in our latest news section. But before we get into any of that, JG, how are you doing? Are you okay?
I've been working like an absolute horse this week, doing so much accounting.
Pulling a cart behind you?
Definitely. I feel like the cart has been loaded up more than most weeks. I've been extremely busy. I feel extremely tired, and I'm hoping throughout this half an hour I can get my words out, because I feel there's been a lot on my mind which isn't tennis. Not bad things, but just a lot going on. And for that reason, it makes it very difficult, I feel, to watch, analyse, and do these podcasts talking about something completely different to where my mind's been. All in all, everything's fine, though. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Fairly similar to you. A lot of stuff going on off the court and outside the tennis world, but keeping my eye firmly on tennis now because it is Indian Wells. We had some great stuff happening at the back end of last week, and we're going to speak about that in this episode. But the main topic of conversation, I know a lot of people have said, come on, you didn't get a chance to cover the Rublev Default and this whole furore that was going on in Dubai. Well, this is our chance to speak about it, and more has happened obviously since that incident happened against Bublik in the semi-finals. And well, let's just go through it. It was a crazy incident, and Rublev, we'll read the tweet from Pavi G here. He said, wow, Rublev has just been defaulted from the Dubai semi-finals at 5-6 in the final set. Rublev was 4-2, 40 up in the final set. He's been defaulted for intimidating the official and swearing at him in Russian. That's what he's written here. I'm not sure that's strictly true, so we've got some other tweets we're going to go through as well. But this is the look. I mean, everybody's seen it by now. Everybody's seen how angry Rublev was, and he was shouting right in the face of this line judge who called the ball, I believe it was in, was that right? I believe he called it, and Rublev, this is what I've got, something which is actually what he actually said. It's like the account which is called Rublev Dev, I believe it's called. So this is apparently what he said. Line. It was out. And this is something you shouldn't really be defaulted for, but I think it was the manner in which he did it. And it was classed as verbal abuse, apparently, from Andrey Rublev. And I thought it was a little bit heavy-handed. There didn't seem to be enough good officiating at this tournament to be able to have a second opinion. I feel like the decision was they came to it far too quickly.
Well, the weird thing for me was they brought over the translator who speaks Russian, who claimed that Rublev said something, you would assume, swearing and something really bad. So obviously I didn't know what he said. I don't speak Russian. But the weird thing was it didn't seem like it was that bad. It was just saying the ball was out pretty much.
He just seemed angry.
And the problem is he doesn't help himself, like you're saying. We saw him at UTS in the flesh, and his demeanour and attitude, I think, is too much. I find that he sulks a lot. He's constantly shouting at himself, such a frustrated figure. I don't like how he reacts to, specifically when he's asked questions in the media from when he's just lost a match.
Yeah.
All in all, he's a nice guy. He really is. But when he's playing tennis, he just seems like not a nice guy. And this, for me,
doesn't he?
I just feel he needs to mature a little bit and act in a different way, because I hate watching him when he's constantly sulking and shouting.
Yeah, we had Tennis Sangren coming out. There was a lot of reaction to this, obviously, across the whole of Twitter and the whole of the tennis world speaking out about it. And he said it's pretty wild that the supervisor can just come out on court and default you because some lines the ref said you cursed in Russian. I mean, it is true. Like, it sort of wasn't really handled in the best way. Rublev should absolutely appeal this and seek winner's prize money in court, to be honest, because the on-court reason given to him was bullshit. He doesn't mince his words, Tennis Sangren, does he? Do you agree with what he's saying?
Oh, definitely. Shouldn't have been defaulted. We know he has since appealed. He's won the appeal, which is great news for him. And I feel that the event needs to have a long, hard look in the mirror, because there's no way they should be defaulting someone purely for shouting. I just keep going back to the fact that he doesn't help himself, because he's constantly doing this. And this wasn't that bad of an incident. I've seen him do a lot worse, to be honest. And I'm just a bit bored of listening to him doing it. It's the same old antics. Some people might like it. I just find it a bit frustrating.
Do you not think that, well, we've got Riley Opelka here, and he says Bush League, linesmen should get demoted to the pickleball ASAP. I'm of another mind in this whole thing, and it's similar to this one. It's crazy that there's like $160,000 ruling, and this is built on the frailty of human eyes on 100-mile-an-hour balls and ears overhearing something in a noisy stadium. What about Hawkeye? A video review. It's why do we still have line judges, essentially? Why do we not have electronic calling?
The interesting thing here is what could happen is like they do in football, where it goes to sort of a VAR. And when he's been defaulted, we bring it up on the screen. It gets reviewed in real time. It's slowing down what he said. The incident's taken into question as well. I mean, if the ball is in fact out, then of course it gives him more of a warranted reason to be so frustrated. It's a big moment in the match. You put all of these considerations together, maybe you could make an on-court decision. The problem is, I don't think the technology is quite there or advanced enough, and maybe the people involved in making the decisions are just not quick enough, and that's the problem we're finding in football. No one wants to sit there for sort of 5 to 10 minutes working out what's going on. People are paid to watch. And not just that, it disrupts the rhythm of the match. It's just not the professional way to do things. So in a one way, it would be nice to have the decision then and there, and a fair decision, because like you say, so much money is at stake, people's career points, and so many other things as well. But then you don't want it to take away from the sport. And if it's taken too long, like it does in football, then for me, the right thing was to make a decision in the moment and stick with it. And that's exactly what happened. Unfortunately, I think they picked the wrong side, and he should never have been defaulted because he didn't say anything that bad. But hopefully Rublev can learn the lesson in the fact that he can't be so aggressive in the way he carries himself and his demeanour, shouting at a line judge an inch off his face. We saw it at UTS, and I thought that was crossing the line, and we've seen it again now.
I feel that if he had done it to the umpire and there's only an umpire on the court, then fair enough. Like, if you're coming up and you're having threatening behaviour and you've gone out of your way to walk to the umpire's chair to then have a go at him, then you might have more grounds for it. The line judge, we don't need them. Let's just be honest. We don't need these line judges. Why are they there? All they're doing is just ruining the fact that this could cost a player points, ranking points and money, lots of stuff. And like Kasak Keena's saying in this tweet here, So you can just default a player, take his points and money away without even checking a video replay. What a joke. Another confirmation we need a VAR in tennis and electronic line calling on all tournaments. So tennis players are of this same mind. This is affecting their livelihood. Imagine it's your day job and someone can just take it away without even, there's not even any replay of it. They just say, no, that's it. There's no other discussion on it. Our decision's final. I think it's ridiculous.
The electronic line calling you definitely need, but VAR in tennis, I don't want.
Line calling, not VAR. But this next
Are you on the same? Do you agree with my reasoning for why we shouldn't?
Yeah,
have
I don't
VAR?
want to slow it down. Tennis is too slow as it is. We need to speed it up. I don't want to be seeing people just using it to their own advantage, because there's a lot of players who like to play slow, and then you could end up with these sort of scenarios too often. So I don't want VAR.
Yeah, because who decides whether or not it goes to VAR?
Exactly.
If someone wants to disrupt a match, they can be like, "Oh, play the tape. Let's go to VAR," and then argue for 10 minutes.
Exactly right. Yeah, and we definitely don't want that. But I think this is a really good tweet. This is obviously the same account that was saying that he didn't swear, and it was saying maybe defaulting was not the right option. What about a point penalty, a fine, a game penalty and a fine? But a default, it just seemed so heavy-handed for what would... It wasn't like he did anything like actually malicious. Didn't hit the line judge, didn't throw a racket. He just shouted.
I mean, did Zverev get defaulted that time when he hit the umpire's chair?
Yeah, he got defaulted from the tournament. I think it was in the doubles, and he got defaulted from the singles as well.
Because that is a justified default.
Yes.
Tsitsipas at Wimbledon probably should have been defaulted. Djokovic at the US Open got defaulted. We've seen a few other instances as well. For me, this one is definitely not a default. I agree with this tweet completely. It's wrong to do what he did. He's a bit rude, I find, with the line judges and interviewers sometimes. But to default him over that is not fair at all.
Let's look at some more of the
Sets
reaction.
a bad precedent.
Somebody who I'm sure knows this better than most, Nick Kyrgios, obviously came out to speak on this matter, and he said class from Bublik, so acknowledged Bublik's class to start with, saying that he just wanted to continue with the match. Respect. He feels for Rublev, and he says it did not warrant a default, so he completely agrees, I think. But there's the other side of the coin, and this is a lot of the reaction as well, and this is probably something that you've just been speaking about. Gaspar Ribeiro Lanza, take us through this one.
Yeah, let there be absolutely no doubt that screaming in the face of an umpire or line judge should always end in default, no matter who's right. Unfortunately, Rublev loses his temper way too often. I don't think it should. I don't think it should always. It depends what's said. It depends the context behind what was said. You need to look at the individual situation. But maybe they are doing it, and this is another thing to consider. Are they a little bit harsher on Rublev because he's got a track record of this constant behaviour, and in the locker room of officials and umpires, line judges, because I'm sure some of them do other events, as we know, especially the chair umpires do. They probably talk amongst themselves, and they're like, we need to make an example of him because he can't keep doing this and getting away with it. So it feels to me that this is a bit of an example they've put forward to prevent him from acting in this way consistently throughout the year. And I don't agree with this tweet.
I don't agree with it should always be a default. But something that I do agree with in this next tweet is about the example that's being set by Andrey Rublev, and this is something that we should be aware of. This is Marcus Buckland saying, so much being said about Rublev's explosion on the court, irrespective of what you've said in whatever language, whether you call it right or wrong, you can't berate an official like that. Not an example I want my 18-year-old to follow. Default is the only answer. I don't agree with the last line, but I agree with the bad example he's setting for players coming up, and they might think that they can get away with this as well.
Well, the umpire should be the person who has the most respect. So you respect their decision. They hold a level of authority on the match and control. And the moment you start shouting at them in their face and disrespecting them, then they've just lost all of that. And tennis is a game of respect. And I think it's important to always respect the officials.
Yes.
But the only time I think it is slightly acceptable, and I've seen it a lot with football recently, is when you are constantly seeing a level of officiating which is subpar standards. With all of this money at stake, the millions and millions of pounds, people's careers, points, everything, fans watching, you need to be held to some kind of level of accountability. Same with the referees in football. And if you fall below that level of officiating, then you need to be held accountable. And there needs to be some accountability for poor officiating. And I think recently, this last few years, I have seen many instances of very poor officiating. So the standard needs to improve before we can then say you need to respect them wholeheartedly with everything.
I feel like umpires' calls, that's where we should just leave it to, though. Like line judge calls, we're just adding an extra person that can take away like points, prize money, ranking points, that type of thing from a player. If you've only got the umpire who can do that, then it's just one person. But having all these line judges that could potentially ruin a match, I think we just don't need them. Clay courts may be slightly different, we know that. But these hard courts, everybody just accepts it and they move on. They don't argue for that long, trust me, because they've got it there on the screen. They say, oh, I want to look at that close call. Oh, I've seen it. It was out. I'll move on. And it's easier. They don't get as stressed about it because they know, what am I bothering to wind myself up for? It was definitely out. Yeah. So crazy. And this tweet, I think, sums it up as well, because this is the craziest thing out of all, is if Rublev thought the ball was really out, he could have immediately challenged. That's the craziest thing. It said should have immediately challenged. Yeah, and he didn't. His first reaction was to shout at an official, which is...
No, he continued.
Yeah, but it's like he shouldn't continue. He should...
No, he played the point out, and that's why. So the point played out.
You have the option, though.
But he wasn't willing. The reason he was frustrated is he played it out and he was hoping that it would have been called out in real time. It didn't. He played out the point, then lost the point. But he was very frustrated they didn't pick up on it.
But sometimes
because the ball was clearly out.
But you have to make that decision if you're playing in this type of thing.
Well, we do see players all the time just stop mid rally and say the ball was out and then it's in.
Yeah.
So
it does happen very often, yeah. And when it lands right close at your feet at the baseline, it's the hardest.
But in the
one
situation where he was that sure, he should have just stopped.
It seemed like he was very sure. That's the thing on this whole thing. So
he should have stopped.
I mean, he should have stopped. But
I don't blame anyone but that's his fault.
At the end of everything, though, he appealed and he did not lose his points and he did not lose his prize money from the event, which I think that's a really important thing in all of this, because he did lose the match due to it. And so he was unable to go on and finish the match, unable to potentially even play a final, may have even won the event. You never know. Mm-hmm. But at least he didn't lose his prize money and some ranking points as well, which is really important for him, because I feel like he's the type of player that might have put him on a downward spiral for the next few weeks had he lost all of that.
Yeah, definitely. But he is back and he's playing in Indian Wells. We know he's in a tough section as well because he could be playing a Yannick Sinner again in a quarter-final there. But of course, a lot of tennis to be played. Let's move on to Indian Wells action. Today was the day for the Brits, and it was a day to forget because they didn't do very well. We had Katie Boulter losing her match. We had Jack Draper losing his. And the big story with Jack Draper yet again comes to him dealing with the conditions. We'd laughed about it yesterday in the draw preview, and it's happened again. And I feel like I've said a lot of negative things about Raducanu. The reason I've not been so negative about Jack Draper is because I feel he has shown a lot higher level than Raducanu has in tennis for a long amount of time. Of course, Raducanu had the great US Open. Since then, we've not seen much level. Draper's shown a consistent level of a top 20 player, I would say. Unfortunately for him, he just can't. His body can't hold up, and I think he needs to do some strength and conditioning training. He needs to really work hard on the gym with his coaches to understand what is going wrong, because technically he's one of the best players. He's simply so good and one for the future. Like, you could honestly say, I know Moratoglu was saying it, you could put him just up there with Holger Rune, like him, yeah. Holger Rune pushing Alcaraz and Sinner. That's how good he is. But we're just not seeing that level of results. We see a top 20 performance from him, but we're not seeing a top 5 performance. And he's actually got that in him, which is so exciting for us British people over here, because he is a player who's young and who has such a great future ahead of him. Just can't handle the heat.
That's exactly what I was going to say. One of the big problems for him, he just isn't acclimatized at all. I feel that the only thing that will mean Jack Draper will do well in these events, he's going to go and have to get a residence somewhere else, and he's going to have to spend all of his time acclimatizing, training in the hottest conditions possible to be able to, like Murray did. Murray was in Spain for a lot of his young career. So I feel that he should be doing the same. Get out of England, get somewhere hot, go South America or something, go somewhere where you're really going to be put through the ringer. And he just needs to be in horrible, long, hard training sessions, matches, at altitude, anything that's going to.
I feel
give
like it's
him
just such a
endurance.
British excuse to say food poisoning. It's like his stomach can't handle foods in other countries, and it's just so
classic.
English. You know what I mean? Like, oh, he's gone. Where's he gone? He's gone to Mexico, and he struggled.
I was listening to a podcast earlier, and they were saying, about the guy who went with the UFC, and apparently they all went there, and then the British people all got food poisoning. I was like, it can't just be the British people get food poisoning in Spain, in Mexico, in India, and all the countries.
I'm not tolerating it. Toughen up. It's time to toughen up. I've said it about Raducanu. Now it's Jack Draper's time. Toughen up, because there's a great player in there. We want you to do well, but you're too weak. You're simply too weak. You're not acclimatized, like you said. And if he wants to be the best, this needs to change, because otherwise he's going to keep losing matches. Look how he started this one, 6-1. He is exceptional, Jack Draper.
Yeah.
But it's not good enough, because you need to be more than just a good tennis player to win events. You need to be able to physically do it, and he can't. Katie Bolter physically has been pushed to the limit. She struggled, couldn't handle it today, but
Georgie,
you can't really be too harsh.
Georgie
beat her, and she's just had such a great week last week that I think she'll still be pleased.
Yeah, I don't think you can be too mad about it, can you? I mean, Georgie is a nightmare draw, to be honest, in any early round. And you'd say that even with some of the bigger players on the tour. She can probably take out a lot of the women if she's playing her best tennis. She hits hard. And I think that Bolter was just a little bit spent. And maybe she's still thinking, reminiscing about her and Alex's amazing win the past week. They're probably in dreamland, to be honest. I mean, who'd have thought it that they both win at the same time? You can't write those type of things, can you?
The way I'm tipping Alex de Minaur to beat Alcaraz in this in Indian Wells, then you never know. He could still be celebrating, yeah? Some good news for one British player, Andy Murray. He beat David Goffin 6-3, 6-2 straight sets, so great
really?
for him.
Is it over already?
And so that one's just finished, and he's doing very, very well with that result. I know he's got a great record against Goffin, but I was expecting him to be run closer than that.
Well, blast from the past, as Oleg says here. We have Nadal Raonic as a first round and Murray Goffin. Yeah, it was 7 years ago that all four of them were ranked in the top 10 together. I mean, it's amazing. You just have a look down this list here. Look at that. Andy Murray there at the top of the heap. Love to see that. I mean,
who was 9 and 10?
Oh, just go down. Goffin and Nishikori.
There we go. So there's Goffin, and Nishikori was 9th, but Rafael Nadal 4th, Roger 5th. Yeah, I mean, these players are, I don't know, they've got some heritage, this 10. This is one of my favourite top 10s, I think, of all time. Yeah. Maybe because I remember it and it was a very iconic amount. I mean, you got the big four, and then you got Stan, and you got all them other players who I thought were really good. They're all Grand Slam champions, right, from Nishikori and Goffin.
And Raonic.
Yeah, but he was close. Good at Wimbledon, wasn't he?
Yeah, very good. It's a big serve. Who knows? Will he be able to beat Nadal? That's a big match. It's coming up tomorrow. Can't wait to see how Nadal gets on. But let's not forget, Taylor Fritz is in this competition as well, and he's a former champion at Indian Wells. But something's been going on off the court with Taylor Fritz. As it says here, a world number 12 and top-ranked American Taylor Fritz signs an apparel deal with Hugo Boss. Lovely stuff. He joins Matteo Berrettini as male tennis players repping Boss, the athletic side of the brand. A debut tourney in the gear is Indian Wells, and it looks like a really nice outfit, I have to say. What do you reckon?
I feel Morgan was something to do with this.
Must have been.
For those who don't know, that is his girlfriend. She is an Instagram blogger, and I feel she would have been in the background pulling some strings. I think it looks really good on him. I do like Hugo Boss. I think it's a great sponsor. I'm not sure how good it is for playability. I think it just looks really good.
Yeah, it does look.
I've never actually used it. I've never seen them in person. I've never felt them. I've never been to a Hugo Boss store and actually tried anything on. But just looking at it, I feel like it's not maybe as good as, say, it's not as sporty as, say, On Running or Nike or Adidas.
It's a bit smarter, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
the look is very Berrettini, and I think they just like a guy with dark hair, to be honest. Tall, dark, and handsome, don't they say? Is that Hugo Boss's thing?
I mean, it looks good on him.
It definitely does.
I can see you wearing it, maybe.
Yeah, I've had a Boss polo shirt in the past, I'm not going to lie.
Would you ever wear Boss tennis?
Well, if anyone's fancy sponsoring me, I definitely would. Don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. Probably get Artengo.
Yeah, you get K-Swiss.
Oh, no. Skechers.
With Norrie.
me and Norrie. I don't mind. I'll take whatever I can get. Anyway, I think that is the news for the day. So, let's move on to Tennis Shootout.
Right, me versus Ben. We're going to ask each other a question, and let's see if we can get it right. Let us know if you're watching at home, if you get this one right or not. You can go first today, Ben.
Right, okay. I will be going first. I've got a good question for you this week. I actually was like scouring the internet for something that we haven't asked each other on Roland Garros.
Mine's not that good.
Okay, no worries. Well, hopefully this is a good one and you're not just going to get it really easily. But it is about Roland Garros. It is about a slam final. So I will prepare my question now. Here we go. So, are you ready? I'll let you have a little sip of water first. Just prepare those vocal cords. Okay. The shortest ever Grand Slam final was played at Roland Garros between Steffi Graf and Natasha Zvereva in 1988. But how long was the match? Was it A, 24 minutes? Was it B, 34 minutes? C, 44 minutes? Or D, 54 minutes?
I think this is the shortest match of all time.
Shortest Grand Slam final.
Yeah, I think. Is that? Did you even say that at the start?
Yeah, Grand Slam final.
What's it? 23, 33, 43, 53.
Instead of threes, fours.
Okay.
So 24, 34, 44, 54.
Oh. I think it's something ridiculous or something like that. It's going to be something wild. It's like, I think it's 34.
And that's the time up. So, locked in answer of 34 minutes. And I can announce...
Crazy.
It is correct. It was 6-love from Steffi Graf in 1988.
I remember seeing it. I remember
Well
seeing
done.
this one.
Yeah, that was a interesting bit of tennis trivia there. Fun facts for everybody. Let me know if you got it right at home in the comments section.
I tell you why I know it, because out of the many watch-alongs we've done in the past, when we've been watching Iga at Roland Garros and she's been beating people easily, I've always looked online. I've done it a few times to see what was in fact the quickest match at Roland Garros, and that one comes up. So I remember seeing the 34.
There you go. Well done. You did your homework without even knowing it. Brilliant.
Let's see if you've done your homework. Right. Roland Garros, Ben, is in Paris. This is a bit of a geography question.
Oh, no. I was never good at
What
geography.
is the distance in kilometres between Paris and Roland Garros? Go.
Okay. Paris and Roland Garros. And is this like the Eiffel Tower?
So this is from Roland Garros from central Paris.
From the centre of Paris.
Yeah.
How many kilometres?
Yeah.
I think it's pretty. It's pretty like close to the centre of Paris. I think. I'm gonna go with 5. I'm gonna go 5. No, maybe 4. I'm gonna go 4. 4 kilometres. Is that completely crazy?
No, it's not that crazy.
I'm gonna go. I just remember.
So is that by road or on a map?
By walking?
No, it's just distance, Ben. So is it
As
on a
the
map, a
crow
straight line,
flies.
or a road? Okay, I can tell you on a straight line from the centre of Paris to Roland Garros, it is in fact 8 kilometres, and on a road it's 9 kilometres. So you needed to double it up.
Wrong. I thought it was a bit closer, to be honest. I don't know why.
And for those interested, the best way to get from Paris to Roland Garros without a car is a bus, which takes 22 minutes and costs 1 to 3 euros.
It's quite cheap. How often
There
does
you
it
go.
run?
That's my question.
Is that the next week's question? How often does the bus run from Paris to Roland Garros?
Rafael Nadal's the driver.
Now
Hello,
that
get on.
tickets are a lot more expensive on that bus. I'm guessing that one's about 200 to 400. No, 150,000 euros. That one. We know what he charges for his tennis lessons. Anyway, let's finish up with that. You win this week. I was defeated.
Finally.
I know, yeah, finally. And now we'll move on to the Q&A.
Okay, the last section of the countdown, the Q&A. We had quite a few questions, so we're going to fire through them.
Indeed. So this is just coming under the post, and thanks everybody who sent in a question. I'm sure some of them are probably rhetorical Mickey-taking questions about us, but I'll try to ignore those and answer the actual ones. This one from Gene, and happy birthday to Gene. It was his 21st birthday this past
Happy
week.
birthday,
so
Gene.
Happy birthday, Gene. And he said, do we think Umber's current form is sustainable? Can he push on now to making deep runs in Masters and Slams? That's a good question.
Good question. I think it is sustainable. I think he has the ability to be a top 10 player. He's around sort of the 10 to 20 mark. On his best level, he's close to 10, maybe sort of 8 or 9, around there. So on that basis alone, you have the ability, if you're that good of a player, to be pushing players for Masters titles, definitely, and quarters, semis, finals of Slams.
I thought that, when I put him in my top 10, I think it was probably about 3 years ago now, that was when I was starting to see signs. I thought he was going to be similar to Yannick Sinner. I really believed that was the sort of level that he could bring. And he's won a few 500 events, and he is actually a really good player on his day. And he plays well on grass as well, plays well on hard courts. Obviously, being French, not bad on the clay either. Multi-surface player. He just needs to get a good draw. I think we kept saying the same thing about Sinner, I think, a lot of the time. Just get a good draw, and then it'll all come together. I think another year, and I think we might see the best of Ugo Umber.
Elliot Hunter asks, do you think people are underplaying Alcaraz's chances of doing big things this season because of how well Sinner's playing? Who do you think ends their career with the most slams? I think we had this question a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
I think they are underplaying his chances of doing big things this season, and I actually believe that Alcaraz will have more slams come the end than Jannik Sinner.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything you just said then. I think we did answer this one before. I think Alcaraz will probably end with the most. Yeah, I'll move on to the next one. I'm not going to spend any longer on that one, sorry. And this one's saying about Sebastian Baez. This is, what's the name? Eli
Garato, we'll call it. So Garato has asked, with his recent form over the past year or so on the clay, would it be safe to assume Baez should be the clear dark horse of Roland Garros? And if not, then who?
I like that question.
I like what's his name? God, I can't remember his name. The other Argentine player who did well.
Cerundolo?
No, double barreled. He just won an event. Diaz Acosta, of course. I think he's got a really good shot. And I feel that Diaz Acosta, he's beaten Baez, of course, not too long ago. I think he's going to do better than Baez.
Not for me. I feel that when they come up against each other, the levels are shown by Baez. And I think that he just needs to hold it together at a slam, to be honest. I've not seen him produce at Grand Slam level yet. Maybe it's the best of 5 format. It doesn't suit him. If he manages to get himself over the line and get a big win at a slam, I think that will be the turning point for him. So
next up, we've got Meta saying, do you think Ruud can make it a third final in a row? No chance. He won't make it this year.
No, I don't think so either. Are you talking about Roland
Snell?
Garros or just any? Yeah, Snail. So
no, talking about that one. Roland Garros.
Do you think de Minaur has levelled up to do well even in slams, like reaching a semi-final of a few or a final or two? I fear his ceiling is not that high to do amazing at slams for Alex de Minaur. I sort of know where you're coming from there.
Yeah,
because
I kind of agree a little bit.
I think it's like a power thing. I think that some of the other players just hit a lot harder than him, and he really suffers when it comes to Grand Slam tennis. I don't know what he has to do to make an adjustment to change it. I'm not sure there is much he can do other than keep plugging away and hope that he gets the better of them.
He's doing really well at the moment, so who's to say he can't? But I kind of agree. I think at the very best he can hope for a quarter or a semi. Next
Semi
one is:
good.
Do you think Nadal can be considered a favourite to win Roland Garros with the struggles he's going through? Of course, that's what I'm going to say. Let's not write him off. Move for his spaces. If Novak wins a slam this year, will JG's head explode? Asking for a friend. Probably. Hopefully it does just for you, because you're a big fan. We've got Fabio Fognini's going to win. Give me a reason why he won't. Because he's not that good anymore. And he's not going to win. Nadal will win it. Great question. Thanks, Linai. Peter Zaremba, you probably want to move on from this, but do you think restoring Rublev's standing and some of his prize money was the right thing? I think we've definitely spoke about that one and answered it. I think it is right that he was restored his prize money, but he needs to change his demeanour to represent himself in a more positive light.
Yes, I totally agree. I did reply to Peter and just say, we're going to be covering it on the first portion of this one. But yeah, totally agree. It was definitely the right thing to do. So, and the last one, I don't think we're going to entertain Tristan with his... Is this channel going to be glazing Novak Djokovic all throughout the French Open? Do you know what? I even had to go and type in glazing into Google to find out what it meant.
I wouldn't even bother. Yes, we're going to glaze him like a Krispy Kreme donut. Thank you, Tristan. Great question. Right, that ends another episode of The Countdown. Thanks for listening, watching, subscribing. If you haven't done any of them things, please do all of them. I'm assuming you've watched, because otherwise you wouldn't be listening to me. But please subscribe if you haven't. And if you haven't already, also join us on Spotify, because you can hear just our voices, and we would really appreciate the support on there.
Definitely. Continue with the Indian Wells coverage. That'll be all this week. Make sure to join us for news, more previews, and some matches too.
Forza Yannick, let's go.
Nole nole.